Welcome to Grit and Grace, the place where grit shapes you, grace carries you, and friends walk beside you through it all. I'm Pam Rader, and along with my co-hosts Erin Payne and Brian Thiessen, we're here to laugh, cry, and tell the truth about what it means to be fully human. Think of us as your old friends. We share real stories, a little cowboy logic, and transformational tools. Because here's the thing, life's gonna kick your ass sometimes, but it'll also invite you to rise. And when you've got grit and grace and a few good friends, you will get through it all. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and buckle up. Welcome back to Grit and Grace. It's Pam Rader with my good friend Erin Payne.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
We're really excited to share a really cool teaching concept experience that we've been discussing and pulling apart this week and have found it very valuable. And our goal today is to leave you with a new way to look at making decisions when you have fear. And I think fear is a universal experience. And when we're in fear, we sort of sometimes believe like we have to make a decision now because that's the brain's way of trying to get control of something that it feels it doesn't have control over. So we're going to have a conversation about what to do when you're afraid and you feel like you need to make a decision. So how many people listening, and I'll include Erin and I in this, you know the text that doesn't come back? You text somebody and they don't come back, it doesn't come back, or you look across the room at someone and they look at you sideways, or you reach out and ask a friend about something and they don't get back to you, and then the mind fills that up with meaning. Like the text didn't come back, they're moving away from me. They'll look across the room, they're pissed off at me. The silence from a friend, I must have done something wrong and they're not telling me. We're all really confident storytellers, and we're often confidently wrong. So the gap between what actually happened and what I decided that it meant is where most of our suffering lives. And most of us have never even noticed that that gap exists.
Mhm.
So think about the last time that you were absolutely certain that you knew what something meant. The tone of voice, a remark, a one-word text answer. You were so sure you knew what it meant. And how long did you hold on to that certainty before you actually found out the truth? So, Erin, has this ever happened to you?
Oh, yeah, of course. And what I'm realizing now is just how quickly the brain moves to creating certainty, creating the meaning. It happens so instantaneously.
Yeah.
And it's looking for comfort. And sometimes comfort isn't healthy for
And
us.
I'm not even going to say comfort. I'm just going to say we're so desperate to relieve discomfort.
Okay, yeah.
You
Yes.
know, like just get me out of this. I don't even
Hmm.
care what's after this, but I don't want this.
Hmm.
So we're
Yeah.
looking for reasons.
We're looking for reasons.
We're looking for reasons because when the brain can make sense of something, then it can find a way out of the discomfort that we're feeling. If it's that they're mad at me, maybe I can apologize. If they're moving away from me, maybe I can be nicer than usual. Or, we look for a solution to the problem so that we can get out of the discomfort of not knowing, of uncertainty. So that's just the brain and the nervous system doing its job, right? But
Hmm.
there's a big cost to that gap, when something happens and then we make meaning, that little gap that's in there, when we don't recognize that gap, then we're trying to make decisions about our next actions based on half a story, because the mind is predictive based on past events. So, for instance, if someone doesn't answer a text and you had, a breakup recently, or, somebody who said they really liked you and then you heard otherwise and it was hurtful to you. The brain goes, "Ooh, this looks like that. So I will fill in the blanks and predict the possible outcome, worst possible outcome, so I can protect you from that." But it's not based in truth at all. The brain is doing the best it can with information from the past. It fills in the blanks and it makes a prediction for the future. And from that incomplete, often catastrophically, wildly wrong prediction,
Yes.
we then make decisions about actions to take. And
Yes.
that's where the problem lies.
Yes.
Have you ever, like, do you have a story about taking an action out of that state?
I do, absolutely. I mean, I have so many stories, but one recently that happened. So I have this girlfriend and she is my truth teller
Mhm.
girlfriend.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that about her. I really do. But I recently had a few conversations with her, one after the other, where I was in a state that was like, I guess just not at my best. And her truth telling, which was just to the point and, it was maybe trite a little bit, like she just sort of said the truth and then that was it.
Mhm.
It came across as not compassionate to me and I was offended
Mhm.
and so I made it mean that maybe we shouldn't be friends. Maybe I should limit my exposure to her. Maybe I should tell her that how she's speaking to me is inappropriate and not kind.
Mhm.
And part of it was because of the state that I was already in. And the other part of it was because, right. And
You
what I
like the
saw there
discomfort
was
of the rightness of her truth?
yeah, and right away I wanted to make it mean something about hers and my relationship and that she was doing something wrong. So I wanted to make my brain went to, "Oh, it's her, not me." And that made me feel more comfortable. And the truth is, whether she said it harshly or not, she was right. And the information that she had to give me was for me,
Mhm.
right? In the
Yeah.
end. So that's my most recent
Yeah, and
one.
then you go, I mean, so in that space, like, immediately it's like, I'll reject her before she rejects me. We move from this space of where we really want as human beings connection, deep connection, and to be seen and to be known by another human being is so beautiful. And if that gets threatened, we do this weird thing. We go right from connection, which we say is so valuable to us, to protection. And it's like, you know what? Fuck you. You're going to do that to me. I'll reject you before you reject me so that I at least have some control over this.
Mm.
And what I have to say about that, stop it. It's stupid.
Right? It happens so quickly. Like, it's like if you don't have an awareness that like, whether it's a somatic awareness, I was really uncomfortable in my body and I was thinking about it, almost ruminating on it. And it's like, okay, there's something not aligned here. There's something not working here. And if you don't have awareness of that and you scroll, you avoid, you try to fill up your time with whatever soothing mechanism you have, then you don't even know it's there.
Yeah, you just think it's how
Like
it
that
is. You're
awareness is
buying
key.
into the story that was created by your
Yeah.
mind, filling in blanks and trying to predict future from past events, which has nothing to do with the present. It takes you totally out of the present. So the rumination is in the past, and then the fear
Mhm.
is predicated in future casting. And so we're not even present. So you
It's
just
just a
said something
mess.
really good there though. We have to get it. We have to recognize, like, what's happening in my body. I feel
Yes.
tight. I feel my throat's I feel mad, and I'm obsessively looping in my thoughts about this. Now, if we
Yes.
can pause and recognize that, I'm actually not in a state to make a clear decision. So let me share this. Let me share this story. This is a yogic story that has been told across generations and by many, many teachers. And it's a parable basically about a traveler who is walking a path and it was dusk. So not quite light and not quite dark. And I don't know about you, but I always have a hard time driving at dusk. My eyes can't adjust. They want the light or the dark. I'm not in a state to make really clear decisions. Even driving, I'm a little more careful. So he's walking along at dusk and he looks down and he's like, "Oh my gosh, there's a snake." And there's this coil on the ground and there's a snake and there might be more snakes, and he was terrified. And so he waits quite a while and the snake doesn't move, and he eventually finds a way around it, but he doesn't sleep that night because he's worried that the snake is out there. And he gets up in the morning after having very little sleep, and he walked back on the path to see if the snake was still there. And it turns out it was never a snake at all. It was a robe left by a traveler just like the day before in a coil. So all of this time, the mind put together because he was in a state of dusk. It wasn't quite clear. It's not quite light. And it's not the quiet stillness of the darkness. It's like, I can't tell. And he made a decision based on the mind filling in the blanks. Coiled things in the dark are snakes. Snakes are dangerous. You should be afraid. You should have cortisol and adrenaline pumping through your body in case you need to run away from the snake. And then he ruminated and obsessed about it and got no sleep and came back, and it was never a snake at all. Now, there's two things going on here in this story. The first is that we often, and the mind does this way more often than you think, mistake ropes for snakes. The glance, the lack of the text, the way someone maybe didn't think your idea was a good idea at work, whatever it is. We just, the tone your mother in law used, like, oh, and maybe mother in law might be a bad example. We are often attributing dangerous intentions to people that don't exist in the world at all. And when we get into that flooded biological state of anxiety, fear, the fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, fear of being seen as incapable, all of those triggers, the mind is filling in blanks even faster and it goes, what do you got to do to get out of here? What do you got to do to protect yourself? And the irony is, most of the time, and I'm not saying snakes don't exist, but most of the time, there's nothing to protect yourself from and you're just wasting energy. And then guess what? When you make a decision from that heightened, flooded state where you're in self protection, you become the toxic person in that relationship.
Mm.
Let's play that out with your friend. If you didn't have an awareness of what happened, like you're flooded, you're ruminating, and you followed through on that decision to say, maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore. Who's the toxic person in that relationship?
When we repaired
Mm.
and I called her to repair,
Mhm.
she was like, I don't know how to talk to you about this. There's just such a wall. I don't know how to be here for you.
Mm.
And I was like, really? Because I just, even if the conversation seems uncomfortable and I have something to say that I think might be taken the wrong way, it's still super important to keep those communication lines open. And if I had just avoided, hid, which is my usual tactics, withdrawn, made it her fault, I mean, yeah, then I'm the toxic person, and I'm causing her.
Yeah.
I'm her snake
Yeah. And
at that point.
the idea is that when you were sort of, I hate using the word triggered because you know how I feel about that. But when,
Mhm.
I mean, there is a proper use of the word. And so her directness and the truth in her statement triggered a wound in you. It's
Mhm.
not her triggering it, it's the truth that triggered it.
It's the truth.
And that got you flooded with probably shame that you hadn't seen it, or self doubt, or fear about what would be required of you knowing this truth. So you're in this state of uncertainty.
Yes.
And then you make a decision about your friendship. And that's the
Mm.
place we want to talk about, is just that, yeah, we don't even know, we can't even make a decision. Is it a snake or a rope yet? We have to wait until we're out of the state, when the light is out, when we're calm and clear and we've given it some time and space, and we can zoom out and have a look at what's actually right in front of us before we make decisions. So when it's said that patience is a virtue, perhaps this is what the heck people are talking about.
Yeah, maybe that's what they mean. I was already in the dark, so to speak, because I was already, I was going through a breakup. I had just had issue, my situation with the cult leader going on. I'm going through this breakup. I'm choosing myself. I'm wobbling. I'm unsure. I was already in the dark.
Mhm.
And perhaps if I had awareness of that, I could have either communicated that differently or waited to have a conversation when I wasn't in the dark,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So I know for me, am moving into some different states in my relationship, maybe redefining how things are. Is it a friendship? Is it, something completely different that we've not experienced before? I don't know. And it's interesting because I had the several experiences of being anxious about the timing of texts, or perhaps the tone of something. And that's not usually me. But my intuition was like, oh, there's a snake here. This person is moving away from me. He's avoiding me. All of that. And whether that's true or not doesn't actually matter. But my instinct and how to react in that moment is to manage perceptions, to be nicer, to ask for clarity, to do all the things that are actually just not helpful from that state.
Mhm.
And it's not, again, it's not about is it a snake or a rope. It could have been true that those things were going on, but I can't moving from that space, acting from the space of the dusk and just assuming it's a snake without having some reflection, without zooming out, without looking at what's aligned for me, what do I really want, and what would lead me towards connection to myself, to the people that matter, instead of this self protection. Because I'm like you, I'm like, fuck you, I'm out of here. You know what? I don't need this shit. Those kinds of things. And
Mhm.
I'm sure lots of our listeners can relate. They're just like, I don't need this in my life.
Mhm. That's a awareness right there. It's like, "Okay, I'm trying to blah blah blah."
Yeah.
So, Pam, do you think, like, could you trying to figure it out, could that be like a again, the word trigger, could that be something that you see yourself doing and realize, "Well, I might be in the dusk here. I might be in the dark here."
Yeah, I think so. I think when we're immediately like we're seeking an answer, we're seeking a way out of the discomfort of right now. It's like it must be because of this, and this is what's happening, and for me, and I know you and I are the same. We'll sometimes go look for psychological explanations for why people behave the way they
Yes.
do, and so then we
Some real
pathologize
deep
it, and
stuff.
it's a way to sort of mitigate the discomfort because then I have some control. I have a framework for why this person is acting this way, and therefore it's not about me being
Mhm.
and so, I've noticed that, and in fact, I have been very rarely I haven't posted anything on Instagram, I've been barely looking at it, and it's been very freeing for me, and I know I have a business, and I'm supposed to do that and all of that, but it's been very freeing for me not to do that recently because I recognize that that's one thing that I do. I look for the reason why someone might be behaving that way that could be anything other than they're rejecting me.
Social media, I've realized, even at the best of times, you have to be so careful with what can get seeded in your mind about something.
Yeah, and then your mind is
So
using
careful.
those seeds that you are listening to because everything you ingest is absorbed. Your brain remembers it all, and it's
Mhm.
looking for it helps to predict what's happening next. So as you're having conversations and your phone is listening to you and you scroll certain things on social media and you influence the algorithm, then what happens is your brain starts using that information to predict what might happen. So, based on some 22-year-old twit on Instagram's unhealed, unskilled version of how life or a relationship should be, you are now flooded with cortisol and making decisions about your future. Wow.
Mhm. Mhm. When you look at it that way, when you really break it down, it's, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. So,
quite the thing.
I love, there's another nuance to this, and it's the sophistication trap. The smarter you are, the more convincing your snake story is. And this is like you and I looking at, oh, what's the pathological reason for this, and what is you know, their history and this and that and but a smart mind builds a better case. So for instance, if you see the rope and you go, "Oh my gosh, that could be a snake." Then you go, "You know what? I know a lot about snakes and that seems to be this particular kind of snake." And of course it would be because they're always at this latitude and on paths like this. I read that in the Encyclopedia Britannica when I was 12. And we're actually if you're the smarter you are, the better you are at filling in more blanks to build the
Mhm.
case for that's a snake.
This happens so
And,
quick.
it's not a flaw, it's a nature of the system, but it's not always helpful. It is protective to keep us alive, but it's not conducive to connection. It's not conducive to, moving forward with clarity. It's not conducive to alignment because when I made the distinction at the beginning of the podcast about we're not moving towards comfort, we're just moving away from pain. Think about the
Mhm.
difference there. If you're in dusk and you think there's a snake, you're just going to run through the forest and you could run straight into a wall just trying to get out of pain. Moving towards comfort is something you can only do in clarity. So
Mhm.
when we're moving away from what we don't want, we're moving away from the snake. We could just be running from, jumping, what's the expression from the frying pan to the fire. But when we actually can get some clarity, then we can move towards what would be alignment, what would eventually be more comfort for us, which is usually connection. So Adyashanti, he's a Zen Buddhist teacher, and I love his teachings. And he talks about how there's two parts of feeling, and there's the idea of the raw emotion. that what's real and how the fear comes up and it's valid and it needs to be felt versus the story that the mind wraps around it and how most people work on one end and skip the other. So we work on the emotion. Okay, I'm going to regulate my emotions and, but they don't actually maybe look at, well, what am I making it mean? And what else could it mean? They
The logic.
they make the assumption that the blanks that were filled in by the mind are true. So I'm trying to think of a really common example, and one that comes to mind is way back in the day when my son was still in addiction, and my mother. I used to get so annoyed with her tone of voice, with comments she would make, and the snake was this. I remember one comment in particular that she made about basically him deserving to go to jail at that time. And I was like, I don't need this bullshit in my life. I can't believe my own mother would say that and how insensitive and cruel. And then I was like, I'm just not going to talk to her for a while. And then I complained about it to my husband and he was like, "Ah, that's bullshit. That's harsh. She shouldn't have said that to you." And all of that. So there's this snake. My mother doesn't even care about my son and all of that. Underneath all that, when I got some layers and some perspective, there's a couple of things nuances that were not being looked at and assumptions that I was making. Turns out I was running the story that my mom thinks I'm a bad mom because my son's an addict. And so
Mhm.
that's dusk. I can't even see her comment for what it is. And when I look back, what my mom was feeling was powerless and afraid. And she was thinking, at least if he was in jail, we would know where he was and we could visit him. And
Mhm.
here I'm making it mean this whole other thing. And she just has nowhere to go with it, no advice to offer. And this was the best she could do. It was not a snake, it was really an olive branch. Like, if this happens, at least we know where he is, you know?
I love that. This was really an olive branch. Oh my gosh, branch.
Well, and
That's
at the very least, it wasn't a snake or it wasn't meant to be a snake. It was an
mhm.
attempt at her own nervous system trying to create safety in the dusk for her because she didn't know a lot about
Yes,
addiction. She didn't really know a lot about what was really going on. And she's reacting in her own dusk. And
scary.
often that's how really challenging conversations are had when we have two people in the dusk with assumptions. And that's probably where the old expression comes from, assumptions make an ass out of you and me, right?
Yeah, the true your version, my version, and then the truth
Yeah.
of what's actually going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So this is such a hilarious episode in terms of every cliche that your grandmother said to you is actually true.
There's
Patience
actually
is
a
a
reason behind it.
virtue. Don't make assumptions. There's your version, his version, and then there's the truth. I remember my grandmothers saying all of these things.
All those little bits of wisdom.
Turns out,
Amazing.
turns out your grandma's smart, everyone.
She knows a thing or two.
She did know a couple of things. I'm a grandma now.
Yeah, you are. That's incredible. I
I can
can't wait to
maybe
meet your
pass on some wisdom that my kids will think is stupid.
yeah. Exactly, exactly.
So,
There's one thing that I was hoping to bring
yeah, yeah.
forward to this. So, in Kelly Brogan's book, she talks about neuroception and how we have a misconstrued idea of what is actually safe and what maybe isn't. And so, of course, if I'm looking down a dark alley and I'm nervous about that, I'm gonna feel safer if there's another human with me. So, of course, there's that is kind of goes without saying. But what she says is like we've lost our sense of safety, or we've been outsourcing safety so much that we don't know when it's just a rope, like you
Mhm.
said.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've seen in my practice of coaching is people like women, especially outsourcing their safety to someone else, to a man, to a family member, getting their needs or their ideas about something from someone else, and then putting down a boundary that's aligned, they don't even know how to do
Mhm.
at all. Or speaking their truth with love. We can't. And they're just like they see that the world is unsafe, or hypervigilance when you're in a room and you're just constantly scanning for something that's unsafe. And so I feel like this idea is really for most women out there is to just start thinking about creating safety within yourself. And I really feel like one of the ways to do that is to allow yourself to start feeling what you feel. Start understanding where your acquired values are showing up. Does this mean something to you? Like, is this important to you, or was it important to your mom when you were growing up and now you're an achiever? And so I'm feeling like we don't even know that we don't feel safe in the world to speak our truth. And our neuroception is a little bit messed up. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Like outsourcing our sense of safety so we can just hide and stay small.
Well, when we out so let's break it down to what outsourcing your safety looks like, because that's a
Okay, yeah.
concept, right? Like you
Yes.
said, like maybe to a man or maybe to whatever. But it looks like this. As long as I have a husband or a partner, I'll be okay. As long as I have this much money in the bank, I'll be okay. As long as, I have friends that don't challenge me, I'll be okay. And when I get, in better shape, I'll be okay. When I get it's essentially the land of later on and the land of everyone else. So now I have a life where my safety, me feeling relaxed, let's just call it relaxed, me feeling relaxed and not in the dusk, and me feeling able to make decisions from a clear space depends on if Bill shows up properly and Jennifer doesn't challenge me and I get a raise at work. And so now I have literally set up a scenario where I have no control over whether I feel secure because it depends on the behavior of other people. So for me, moving being safe in yourself from concept to creation looks like this: creating goals that no matter what happens externally to you, that you would still have control over that. So, ironically, I used to say this to people when they would say, I have a goal of being married to my husband for the rest of my life and having this happiness. And I would say, that does not allow for him changing his mind. And as we know, mine did. So,
Mhm.
I would say instead, I will be surrounded by love. Well, guess what? I have control over that. I have control over that. If I am loving, then I'm going to be surrounded by love. My puppy can give me love. I feel loved by source, by the universe. If love is what I am, I will be surrounded by love and I will attract love in all forms around me. And I have control over that. But if my happiness, my security, my safety depends on my husband wanting to also be married to me for 50 years, I have outsourced my sense of safety. So I think that might give some clarity to
Yes.
people.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the way you put that. It's so succinct, and I knew you would be able to put it into these words. But when it depends on someone else,
Yeah,
then it's like we don't know how or can't create it within ourselves. And I think it's important to create that sense of safety.
it is. And here's the thing: it doesn't mean that you won't feel anxious if someone's going to leave.
Of course.
If it's a friend or if you feel like your job is being threatened and there might be insecurity there, or that a relationship might be, moving towards the end, and you will feel anxious and awful. And that doesn't mean that you don't feel that you can't access safety within yourself. It's normal when we feel we're going to be expelled from the tribe of any sort.
Yes. And
We
that's when
will
the
feel
dusk
that.
comes
And
in.
that's when the dusk comes. And this is
The
what we want
dusk
to talk about.
settles.
That is not the place to make decisions from. Recognize I'm flooded. I'm anxious. And of course, and no wonder, I'm a human
Mhm.
being and I have fears. And so there's a lot of assumptions going on here about what's going on. And the biggest assumption is that my well being depends on whether this person stays or goes, or this job comes or goes, or this friendship stays or goes. And when we get just a little bit of space from it, even sometimes a day, sometimes it's just hours, and you go, oh, you know what? I'm good. Like for me, as I said, some things have changed in my relationship and it was very anxiety provoking. And then just even a few hours later, I was into my work and I'm like, I love my work. I love what I get to do. And now I'm not fraught with this anxiety over what's going to happen. Like I know what's happening and I'm good. And I just had this really deep sense of safety kind of come over me from myself. Like no matter people come and go, and
Yes.
jobs come and go, clients come and go, weather comes and goes. And the key is to remember that you are the sky and all of that is the weather.
Mm,
And when
mm.
you're in a storm, when there's a storm in your sky, as the sky, you want to witness. So the storm will pass. You are not the storm. The storm will pass and you don't make decisions during the storm. You hunker down. You go into the root cellar.
Use some tools.
Yes.
You know, your work, I see that for you and for all of us when we're passionate about it is really a sense of like full presence.
Hmm.
Not being in the past, not being in the future, and allowing your it's regulating. The
Yes.
nervous system regulates when we're just in the moment doing our passion, doing something that we love.
Well, let's talk about what dusk is really. The mind goes to the past to look for things that look like this thing that you're seeing. So it's the past. And then it goes, well, I have all these blanks, but given what I know, the calculation for the future would be
Mm,
this. And it literally skips over what's happening right now. And so let's talk about the tools that we can give people. We say get present all the time, but what is it really to get present? What does that
what does
even
that
mean?
mean? I think naming it, right? Naming the dusk before acting on anything. Like we've said already, just like, what's my light level right now?
I
Am
love
I
that. What's
tired?
my light level right
Activated.
now? I'm actually having trouble seeing because I'm so flooded with cortisol and fear and adrenaline and emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a recent experience. I want to just share that exactly of this. Like it was just like last week, and I'd had a conversation with my partner, and it's loving. Like we're very loving and wonderful to each other, and we care for each other and all that. But it was a conversation about maybe that this relationship is going to change, and I was scared. And I felt this flood of adrenaline and cortisol, and I had this internal shaking come up. And I honestly I haven't experienced that. I had chronic PTSD after my first marriage, and I would get this internal shake for no reason, and I hadn't had that. And I was like, I was kinda in it and I was looking for reassurance, and then I just saw it and I was like, I know what this is. This is my body predicting loss. After I've just
Mm,
had a loss, and, not longer than a year ago, a little more than that now, but and it was afraid of another loss, of an upheaval and all of that. When we didn't even know that that was what was happening, or if it was happening, or if it and, what anything would look like. And when I saw it, I could go, "Ooh, I've seen this before. This is my body doing its thing. I'm afraid." And I just named it. I said, "I'm afraid." And he said, "Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Like, I'm right here and we're going to talk through this." And there's no, so I could understand my body was like, there's a snake. And
mhm.
just by naming it, like, I'm afraid and I'm flooded right now, I could feel that. And whether he reassured me or not wouldn't matter. It shouldn't
Of
matter.
course.
But
Mhm,
I could see this isn't about the situation. I could see, oh, there's all these past triggers. This feels the same as that. And that's actually not what's happening here. And I don't even know what's happening here yet. So
mhm,
naming it was really good because then I'm gonna be honest, the sensation did not go away. It was very freaking uncomfortable. I hardly slept, but I was aware that it was a storm and I am the sky and the blue sky would return. It was not a permanent state that I had to do something about.
mm.
And then in the morning, when I got up and had coffee and my routine, and I was like, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm good. I'm okay. I could get grounded again. The light literally came. And I was able to make some decisions. We were able to make decisions from this lighter, grounded place. So, naming what you feel in your body as there is a storm
Mhm.
passing through my body right now, and it feels like this. And when else have I felt that? But yeah, that's familiar. That doesn't mean there's a snake. It means my body's preparing in case there is one.
And that awareness, naming it, allows you to say, "Oh, I don't have to trust this," or you can just, "How much should I trust this?"
Yeah.
And maybe, as we've discussed this a lot, is sometimes our nervous system responses, it's like it's not a signal that there's anything actually wrong.
Yeah.
We don't have to trust that it's telling me something's wrong and I need to change something right now.
Totally. It's just the body trying to protect you. So naming it, yeah, before acting on any charged interpretation, because like part of me was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is, the whole I'll reject you before you
Yes.
reject me. That would not have been helpful at all. And I would have
Mhm.
regretted that. So
Would have had to clean it up.
I would have had to clean it up. And now the state that you're in when the story forms sort of determines how much you can trust the story too, or
Mm.
the actions. So what's my light level right now? Can I even trust this? Okay, this is a storm. That's the first tool, just like knowing what it is instead of looking for to figure it out and what move to make. The second is like when you feel your body activate, I would say your chest might tighten or your jaw clenches or like I got that internal shake. Like take a hand on your body, touch something, hand on your chest, hand on your belly, and just ask yourself, like, am I in the dark right now? And if you're all flooded, the answer is yes, my friends, you are in the dark. You cannot see a snake or a rope. You're seeing monsters in the closet, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Under the
it's not
bed.
to fix it or bypass it, but just to identify that that's what's actually happening. And once you know that, you can ask yourself, like, what am I making this mean right now? Like I when I was in that state, I was like, I'm making this mean that I'm going to be abandoned and that I'm going to have to start over and that it's going to be hard and all of that. And I thought, like, none of those things have happened just now. And so I asked myself my favorite question, what else could this mean? And
Your mom's olive branch,
yeah,
a beautiful example of that.
yeah, what
I
else could
love
it
that.
mean? What else could it mean?
Mhm.
And in this particular case, it might mean that we're actually speaking real truth to each other and that there could be a transformation of a friendship, a relationship, or like I don't even know what's coming. And it doesn't need to mean what has happened in the past. And so often, what else could it mean? Could save any relationship. With your parents, with your friends, like your friend telling you truth really bluntly, and you felt she wasn't compassionate. Well, what else could it mean? Turns out what else it meant was she didn't know how to get it through your thick head.
What are you trying to say?
Right? Like, but I mean, like, what else could it mean? Like, she loves me
Take
enough to
heed.
tell me the truth that hurts, and there's not
Yeah.
many people in the world that will stand in that seat
Yeah.
and risk being rejected to tell me a truth because they love me.
Mhm.
Whoa, well, that's a different thing.
Yeah, and she said later, she said, I'm sorry if you felt judged and I came across harshly." And I was just like, "Oh my god, no more."
Yeah,
She was referring to my ex. "No more of him."
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
"Okay, that's fair."
Yeah. Yeah, right? And then I think that if we can get into the idea that this is a like your mind is creating a hypothesis and let it be a hypothesis, not a verdict. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
like a
there's one
maybe.
hypothesis, like maybe she's not compassionate and she's being harsh with me. And the other hypothesis is like when we say what else could it mean? It's like, oh, well maybe or maybe she was flooded that day. Maybe she had her kids running around and stuff was going on for her and she didn't have any patience. Another hypothesis could be that she feels that we're close enough that she can just tell the truth like that and our friendship is unshakable. Well, now we have three working hypotheses, one that leaves you
Mhm,
feeling anxious and a couple that leave you feeling grounded. You get to
mhm.
pick. We
Yeah,
get to choose the
in
meaning that makes us
in the
feel
God space.
the God space.
Well, I remember one time I heard you talk about, like, the gap
Yeah.
where and this is, like, where we get to be godlike.
Yeah.
Because and what you meant was, like, we create what we wanna put in there, and we create our story, we create the meaning, we're creators. So now I call it the God space.
I love that. Get into the God space. Yeah, I'm going to create because we will all have the life of the story that we tell. Like we'll have the experience
We
of the
will.
story that we tell. So if I tell a story of woe is me and that everyone's out to get me and I always get abandoned and all of that, that will
I'm
just be
not
my
lovable.
experience. So you want to get into a practice of questioning your stories. Like, is this story helpful or harmful?
Mm.
Maybe I'm the snake in my own life because I'm really good at building a case for why everything is shitty.
I'm pretty sure that if a lot of people asked that question, the world would be different.
Yeah, what else could this mean? Yeah. So I think that the one conversation that you could have in your life that could change everything is like right now, every one of you listening has a snake story somewhere in your life that closed a door where you made a comment. Like your story is perfect for that. Just like your friend said something in a certain way and you were mad about it and it closed the door. And not every, I'm going to say like not every rope or snake needs to be discussed, but some do. And so maybe
Mhm.
identify one that's been playing in your life where you made an assumption, you cut somebody off, or you gossiped about them, or you made a decision in the dusk that's cost you a relationship or cost you peace in a relationship. And then have the conversation with them, not to be right, but to bring it into the light. And then you can decide, is that a snake or a rope? when you're not flooded and make a decision from there.
I love that. I think it's valuable to understand how the light feels as well.
Mm.
So we could say that the cost is our lightness, right? Which maybe feels like peace or but what does it feel like in the body when you're regulated, when you're rested, when you're resourced? And how is this different from the dusk state? So then you can see and understand when you are in the dark and building that sense of a clear light perception as a body memory, not just a concept. Because you are incredible at talking about, "Oh, okay, this is just a concept. Let's bring it into." And feeling that duality, the difference between the dusk and the light, and understanding what it feels like to have a regulated nervous system. I think so many people don't even know what a regulated nervous system is, first of all, and that's maybe another podcast, an
Yeah.
entirely
Well,
different
this
podcast.
this comes
But what
down
does it
to,
feel like?
you know, my grandma another grandma-ism. Like,
Perfect.
you know, I don't know any grandma who didn't ever give the advice to one of their stupid children or grandchildren that said, "You never regret sleeping on it." Right?
Mm,
Just, like, sleep on it before you make a decision.
mm.
And that, they knew something. They didn't call it regulating your nervous system, but they knew the difference between the dusk and the light. Things come clearer after a good night's sleep, my grandma used to say. So they knew this. We just have all these fancy terms for it now about regulating the nervous system. But yeah, understanding how the light feels. The light feels grounded and clear, and you're not led by trying to run away from discomfort. Instead, you're moving towards what you value.
And if our intuition is quiet versus loud, we can hear it
Yes.
when we're in the light.
If it's loud, if what you're experiencing is loud, it is not your intuition. It is your nervous system. It is your brain being predictive. And that's how, like for me, I just know instantly this is not the time or place to be making any big decisions from. Yeah.
Man, our
So
grannies are so wise.
I know, right?
And I used to just like I didn't even recognize it.
Oh,
Didn't even
yeah.
see it
I can't
when I
even,
was younger.
I think of all the cliche and most of are pointing towards this particular topic.
Mhm.
You've never walked a mile in someone else's shoes. My grandma used to say
Mhm.
that all the time. She would always say, now, you don't know what it's like to be him. In her way, like, don't make assumptions about that person. And I think there is just so much wisdom too. It's just a life lived, and you see the cost of all of your assumption and meaning making in your life and all the damage it's done in relationships everywhere. And you start to back off and become I'm feeling that as I get older. I just like I don't need to say something about everything. And
Mhm.
oftentimes little slights, little hurts that I was gonna say something about, I'm like, oh, thank God I shut my stupid mouth. Like,
Yeah, let's just not even go there because there's no point. You don't
why?
have to. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I want to leave everyone with this. Your mind doesn't experience events; it experiences its interpretation of events, and the gap between sensation and the discomfort and the verdict—that's where your freedom lives.
Mhm.
So, some of the most expensive stories in your life are the ones that you never thought to question, and they might be costing you some really beautiful relationships.
Mm.
So maybe
When you look at it that way.
yeah, maybe go out there and shine some light, give some space, get curious. Curiosity is the bridge to connection. Get
What
curious
else could
about
this mean?
yourself, about others, about what else it could mean. And then attribute good intentions. Be generous in your assumptions instead of protective.
Easy to do that with ourselves. Oh, my intention was good there.
Yeah.
But naturally, we don't do that for others.
No, we assume everyone's out to get us. Like me with my
Yeah.
mom saying that, like the difference
Yeah.
between the snake and the olive branch. Like, yeah, she was just like, if I attribute good intentions, it's like she was scared too. She felt powerless. She was trying to say something that would alleviate fear or whatever. And if I can't see that, then now I have a son who's in addiction. I'm terrified about that, and a dysfunction in my relationship with my mother.
Mhm.
Okay, so this
Layers.
is another grandma, this is my grandpa's thing. That's not my grandma's, but this is and this describes the situation. My grandpa used to say, "You can have a situation and get yourself bent out of shape, but then you have the same situation and you're bent out of shape."
And you're bent out of shape. So good.
Right? I think that's a great way to end this because that's exactly what
Yes.
we're talking about here. Yeah,
Yeah.
old
And
Grandpa
you're bent
Earl.
out of shape
Yeah, and when you're bent out of shape is not the place to make decisions from.
to make decisions.
Yeah. I hope this was helpful to our listeners. And If you like the show, please share the show. And it really helps us if you rate the show, if you make a comment on the show,
Give us a rating.
like a little rating on the show. It really helps us to grow. And the show is growing. We're so grateful. Thank you for listening. If this resonates for you, or maybe there's someone in your life right now who's in the dusk and this could really help them, please send it to them because our goal is just to help people get a little more free.
Sending love out of there, out into the world.
And if you want to work one on one with either Erin or I, or in a group coaching situation, we've got all kinds of containers that you can choose to work with us. And check out the links in the show notes. We would love to chat with you and see if it's a good fit to move you into our grit and grace philosophy and turn your grit into gold through the grace of understanding your humanity.
I love it.
Until
Thanks,
next
everybody.
time, bye.